Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're taking a first look at Urshifu Single Strike, fully maxed out to level 50 in the Master League. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Meaty Schmeaty, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, Urshifu Single Strike at level 50, I believe, does get over 4,000 combat power, and for the moveset, this trainer is running Sucker Punch, Dynamic Punch, and Payback. So, some pretty nice fast move damage and opting for a nuke moveset over running Brick Break. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at level 50 Urshifu in the Master League. Off to a tough start in game number 1 though, leading Solgaleo into Shadow Ho-Oh. Shadow Ho-Oh going to be staying in this matchup, and they're going to go for a Brave Bird and Dip to grab an early shield advantage. Out comes Xerneas. Xerneas going to be met with a Fusion Flare bait. Ice Burn is just absurd neutrally, so the opponent here is going to be forced to commit a shield. Kyurem just going to opt for the damage of a Fusion Flare. This will not knock out, but the opponent would have thrown before the Ice Burn was reached, so this is actually pretty nice as this can set up a farm down. Solgaleo is unfortunately going to be hit with a close combat when it gets brought back in, but I think that's pretty fine, because you're more than happy to absorb this damage, and then you can potentially even snipe down with Urshifu. Close combat is going to land, there's the switch to Urshifu, getting the snipe down with Sucker Punch, and the opponent, they still have that Shadow Ho-Oh here, and they're going to bring it back in now. But the Ho-Oh did already take a lot of damage throughout the course of this battle. Ho-Oh going to be firing off energy. We will see the shield from Urshifu. Urshifu going to be hit with the Brave Bird in the back. It's Rhyperior at his Urshifu's moment to shine. Urshifu has Dynamic Punch for this exact reason. Rhyperior is going to end up shielding up, but guess what? There's another Dynamic Punch ready to go. Dynamic Punch rocks Rhyperior. There's the switch and the catch onto the Solgaleo. Very nice gameplay here, absorbing that Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe does not get the debuff. Rhyperior going to make one final Breaking Swipe before it gets Fire Spun down. And this Solgaleo is about to flip the script. This is normally a nightmarish matchup, but all the damage taken on the Ho-Oh means Psychic Fangs from Solgaleo picks up the KO, and that's going to be a Game 1 win. We move to match number 2, and it's a very bad lead for Solgaleo as it's met with Kyurem Black. Oh, but they're running Dragon Tail, so this lead is actually now a good lead. If it was Shadow Claw, it would be absolute disaster. Shadow Claw Kyurem able to outpace significantly. Shadow Claw is hitting for super effective damage. Here the opponent is going to make a nice catch as they're able to absorb the Iron Head damage onto Melmetal. That is definitely not ideal, but Melmetal is something that Urshifu can be switched into. Urshifu farming up, looks like it does win the charge stack priority tie here, going for Dynamic Punch. That's going to land, and down goes Melmetal. So far, the opponent's team pretty weak to fighting. They had the Kyurem lead. They're going to bring back in the Kyurem. These Dragon Tails are adding up, and if you're Urshifu, I think there's honestly a reason to shield. Urshifu gonna no shield. Oh, it survives! I was not expecting it to survive there, but Urshifu hangs on. The Fusion Bolt does not KO, and Urshifu forces a shield. In the back, opponent is going to have a Purified Rhyperior, and Rhyperior is going to get absolutely deleted by Ice Fangs. We will see the shield from Kyurem, the opponent going to go for the Breaking Swipe, and Kyurem is just going to get the full farm down of Rhyperior. Rhyperior just gets absolutely demolished by Ice Fangs. There's the Hail Mary Rock Wrecker, but it's not to be, and there are back-to-back Fusion Flares ready to go on Kyurem White. Opponent shields the first, but there's just 100 energy on this Kyurem. There's no way to win this game. Fusion Flare number 2 picks up the KO, and that's a good game. We move to the next match. Solgaleo staring down Dialga, so this is a great lead. Opponent safe switches into Kyurem Black. This one does have Shadow Claw, and since it is Shadow Claw, Urshifu can actually do pretty nicely here. Tough call to make for Urshifu. Is it going to be the Free Shock? Urshifu no shields. It's the Fusion Bolt, and that is quite nice. Now, Urshifu, it looks like, is going to go for the shield and then just doubling up on Dynamic Punches. So, shielding up can farm up to 2. Urshifu actually farms over 100, and this ends up being a misplay. Because if the opponent shields, then they can win the charge stack priority tie, and that's exactly what they're going to do. So, unfortunately, a bit of a misplay from our battler here. This could potentially set up farm for the Kyurem, though. In comes Kyurem. Kyurem is going to get a full Ice Fang farm down, but if the opponent is strong into the Solgaleo in the back, things could get difficult here. It's going to be Palkia. No bait here from the Kyurem. Kyurem really needs this move to land. Ice Burn is going to be shielded. Opponent switches into Dialga, and now we will see Solgaleo get to hit the field. But the fact that the Palkia is switched out can probably open the door to this game potentially being a win. Solgaleo is going to continue to chip away here. Free Fire Spin goes through as Dialga is going to be firing off the Roar of Time. That did get shielded. Can Solgaleo potentially Psychic Fangs its way into a farm down? That would be ideal. Solga wants to leave with energy. It's going to be close, and Solgaleo does get that farm down. Exiting with so many Psychic Fangs loaded, firing off Psychic Fangs number 1 into the Palkia. Palkia not going to take a lot of damage, but with that guaranteed debuff, it's going to get lower and lower. There's the quick switch. Palkia lives on 1 HP, but this is not Spatial Rend range. The opponent should be firing off the Spatial Rend here. Oh, they go for the Aqua Tail, hoping they would live the Fire Spin, but they did not. And against all odds, that game looked really tough to win in the mid game, but it ends in a win. We see same leads as last game, leading Solga into Dialga. Opponent safe switches Shadow Rhyperior, and it's Kyurem White's time to shine. Opponent farms up to the Rock Wrecker. Kyurem thinking about calling the bait, calls the bait, and gets it right. That is a terrific call. Now, Kyurem gets a 1-shield farm down, will exit with quite a bit of energy, and I know the Dialga had a pretty bad lead, but I don't think either Breaking Swipe debuffed. So if they let this go, this Ice Burn is going to delete almost their entire health bar. Ice Burn into Dialga is going to land, gets the defense drop as well, and now you can probably descend in the Urshifu. In the back is going to be Therian Landorus. This is realistically not what you're hoping to see, but the Sucker Punches are adding up quite substantially. Unfortunately, with the Sandsear Storm, the Sucker Punches are suddenly a lot less threatening, but with Solgaleo and a shield, and importantly, the Solgaleo being at full HP, this does feel like a win. Tough call to make here. I think you could probably no shield and win just by debuffing with the Psychic Fangs, but Smeedy is going to end up double shielding the Urshifu. Urshifu continuing to farm. These Sucker Punches now have them almost into the red health. Banks the Dynamic Punch as the opponent sends in Dialga. Dialga is going to make one final charge attack here. It is just going to be the Iron Head, and this isn't even Sandsear Storm range, so the opponent realizes there's just not a way to win this game. Landorus put up a good fight, but it just could not 1v2. Very tough lead in the next match, as this team is technically triple weak to Palkia. We're going to see a safe switch into Urshifu. Urshifu answered with a Tapu Lele, and Urshifu does actually end up playing to the CMP tie that it does not win. But Urshifu is going to be shielding up the Nature's Madness and now going to unleash Payback. Payback will hit hard if they let it go, which they do, and down goes Tapu Lele. In comes Palkia. Palkia firing off an Aqua Tail. Is this Aqua Tail onto the -1 defense Urshifu going to be enough to knock out? No, it is not, and Dynamic Punch is reached. That's such a clutch survive from Urshifu. Dynamic Punch is going to force the shield. Unfortunately, this team is still ABA weak to the Palkia. In comes the Kyurem, but it's not like Kyurem does particularly well here. Kyurem is going to be firing off the double resisted Fusion Flare. The opponent is already very, very low. We now see the switch into Solgaleo, and the opponent doesn't hold their energy. Instead, they throw the energy on the Solgaleo because they're on Hydro Pump? No shot. Oh my goodness, the opponent unfortunately does not have Spatial Rend on this Palkia. They end up making a catch onto a Tapu Bulu, but unfortunately for them, Tapu Bulu is just getting deleted by Fire Spins. We see a nice undercharge on the Psychic Fangs because realistically, you just want farm on the Kyurem. The opponent now going to get sniped by an Ice Fang. In comes the Palkia, and Palkia will get Ice Fanged down, and I believe this is now 4-0 with the team. This is a tough lead, staring down a Landorus. We're going to see a safe switch into Urshifu. The opponent probably doesn't know what's on their screen, so it's usually a pretty safe bet, if that's the case, to stay in, debuff it with a Sandsear Storm. Oh, but the opponent is actually staying. Urshifu now going to go for the Payback. This has been debuffed, but Payback is still a great move, and the Sucker Punch after knocks out. Landorus loses the zeros. In comes Dialga, but Dialga is going to be hit with a Dynamic Punch now, and this Urshifu is putting in a lot more work than I ever expected. Urshifu grabs a shield, opponent switch locks their Kyurem, but now this is a very straightforward game. Kyurem White gets put onto Kyurem Black, and then you have the full health Solgaleo, which is going to do an amazing job at shutting down Dialga. Kyurem full sends the Free Shock, that's a very important shield, and now this is a very comfortable Fusion Flare coming out from the Kyurem. Kyurem Fusion Flare will easily pick up the knockout, opponent is going to end up committing the shield, and this is a very safe double shield. The fast move pressure is just too much. Opponent switches into Dialga, and Dialga is about to get absolutely nuked. That's going to be Ice Burn into Dialga. That plus the Fire Spins will pick up the KO, and the opponent is going to resign the match. Moving to the next battle, Solgaleo staring down a Keldeo. This is a bit of a weird matchup here. Neither fast move is doing basically any damage, but obviously Psychic Fangs will hit for super effective damage onto the Keldeo, and Keldeo can return fire with neutral Aqua Jet or Sacred Sword. We will see the Sacred Sword coming out from the opponent. Opponent catches onto their own Urshifu. They have one too? Okay, Urshifu now going to be answered with the Kyurem White, and Kyurem White can potentially look for a one shield farm down. Let's see what moveset they are running. They are on Dynamic Punch. Can Kyurem White get the full farm down here? It can, courtesy of that Psychic Fangs debuff. Back in comes the Keldeo. Keldeo unfortunately does wall off the energy. Kyurem no shields, calling that it lives the Sacred Sword, but it doesn't. And that ends up being, unfortunately, 100 energy lost on this Kyurem. Psychic Fangs is going to be shielded by the opponent, so it seems like they're not particularly comfortable with letting moves land on the Keldeo. Sacred Sword is going to land. Another Psychic Fangs is reached. There's a catch attempt. The catch is unsuccessful, and now we're going to have Urshifu versus Duskmane in the endgame. Surely no Duskmanes run Sunsteel Strike anymore. This one actually does. I stand corrected. All I see nowadays is Ironhead Outrage. So if it was me, I probably would have no-shielded and got nuked, but luckily they ended up committing the shield. Back in comes Keldeo. Sacred Sword may have KO'd Kyurem earlier, but it's not KOing from here. Urshifu able to hang on, fire off Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch, they're forced to commit the shield, and then there is a vicious combo play available with the Solgaleo. Psychic Fangs onto Keldeo just gets them too low, and Keldeo is going to get fire spun down, and that's another win. What a lead in the next game. Solgaleo into Tapu Bulu. Opponent get a safe switch into a Dragon Tail Kyurem, and this is by no means a good response to Solgaleo. Solgaleo going straight for the Iron Head. Opponent, they're just in a bad spot where they can never really outpace here. So as Solgaleo is extremely comfortable staying in and just going straight for the Iron Heads and consistently making this Kyurem's life extremely uncomfortable. Kyurem no shields, they just get KO'd. They're going to bring in Rhyperior, and we will see an immediate pivot out into Kyurem White. I think Rhyperior only built up to 4 here. We will see the shield. It is a breaking swipe. Out comes Tapu Bulu, but part of the reason why Tapu Bulu isn't played as frequently anymore is it's just really struggling into a lot of the top meta. Like Tapu Bulu, against the Dragon type, which is the type that it should beat, is already well below half HP. The Nature's Madness does not even KO. My goodness, Tapu Bulu lives a sad existence in the current state of the Master League. Fusion Flare, it's resisted, but all chip damage is helpful. And now it's time. Show them the Urshifu. Urshifu is going to get the full Sucker Punch farm down here. It doesn't matter what Rhyperior throws. They go for the Rock Wrecker. Urshifu shakes off the damage. Going to go for the Zero Bubble Dynamic Punch. And the opponent is going to concede the match. Moving into the next game, Solgaleo is going to be staring down another Kyurem Black. We'll have to see if it is going to be Shadow Claw. This time it is Shadow Claw, so we will see a pivot out into Kyurem White. Kyurem White will obviously have to respect the Freeze Shock here. That would do too much damage. Oh, last second shield almost called the bait, and thank goodness the bait was not called. In comes Dialga. The double fusion flares being reached for Kyurem is very nice here, as this will hit very hard onto Dialga. Dialga shields the first, but there's another one loaded. This will not knock out, but it will put a pretty solid dent in that Dialga. We actually see no taps there, letting the opponent farm down, because this will set up a nice farm for the Solgaleo. I really like this play. This is a very heads-up play, getting all the farm on the Solgaleo, and now, if they bring in the Kyurem, they're going to have a terrible day, but they're also going to have a terrible day against Urshifu, as they have no ability to do fast move damage to Urshifu. They're just going to get KO'd here. In comes Dawnwings, and Dawnwings realizes it's getting fully Sucker Punched down, and that's a good game. We move to the final match, and it's a bad lead for Solgaleo as it's leading into Landorus. The safe switch into Urshifu. We've seen that even at -1, Payback will absolutely destroy a Landorus. Landorus fires off the Sandsear Storm, and now out comes Palkia. That's a Dragon Tail Palkia, so a very interesting moveset choice there from the opponent. Dynamic Punch does get shielded. Dynamic Punch number 2 is reached. Would have been nice to make the payback, but even still, a Dynamic Punch will add up. So Palkia does exit with a ton of energy. You're forced into sending in the Solgaleo here, or we actually see a catch attempt trying to catch the Spatial Rend. Unfortunately, unsuccessful, and Palkia is going to get to fire off Aqua Tail after Aqua Tail in this matchup. So Solgaleo very comfortable comfortable no shielding moves here. Opponent is actually going to go for a Spatial Rend, and now they switch out into the Landorus. Landorus going to be met with the Iron Head. Iron Head is going to get them quite low. These fire spins are adding up. They're forced to fire off a last-second charge attack. Solgaleo shields at the last second here. The switch into Kyurem, and we'll have to see what they have in the back. And oh my goodness, the win con has appeared, and its name is Zygarde. Zygarde just getting absolutely deleted by Ice Fangs. Zygarde is going to go for the crunch. They're fishing for a debuff. They're not going to get it. In comes Palkia. Palkia gets farmed down. And this game is over. In comes the Zygarde. There's back-to-back Fusion Flares loaded and ready to go. Fusion Flare number 1 is going to be shielded, immediately followed by Fusion Flare number 2. This Fusion Flare is resisted. That plus the Ice Fang will be enough to pick up the knockout. And that is a good game. Now some final thoughts on Master League Urshifu. First off, I really didn't have high expectations, so I guess I exit this showcase more impressed than I was expecting to be. I really didn't expect it to do a whole lot in the Master League, but it honestly looked like it put up a pretty surprising amount of fight. Over 4,000 combat power, it has some pretty good bulk. I think it would really benefit from a slightly cheaper bait move, whether it's getting like a 35 energy dark move like Brutal Swing to pair with Dynamic Punch, I think would be really nice. For the time being, I think it's a pretty viable anti-meta slash spice pick where if you support it well, then you can probably get some pretty solid wins with it. But the one thing that I will caution is with the crown forms of Zacian and Zamazenta arriving to the Master League very soon, I think any Urshifu relevancy will take a backseat for quite some time, just due to the fact that you're going to have a new incredibly good Fighting Steel type and Fairy Steel type, and those are typings that are not excessively kind to Urshifu being a Sucker Punch user. So all in all, I think it's a really interesting Mon, and I do hope that at some point I'm able to get the Rare Candy XLs like this battler had to power mine up. But in the meantime, I think I'm probably going to keep it in the Ultra League for now, and then maybe I can lucky trade and get one down the road, because there could be a future meta. Let's say if the crown forms aren't good, many seasons from now they get nerfed or something like that, then Urshifu could shine. But for the time being, I think they are going to be a bit tough to use with these crown forms looking so incredibly strong. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.